You've also said to me, John, that you've been able to help people stay in their home, and there's been some success stories. Um, Describe the one success story that you were talking about earlier with me offline that
Yeah,
allowed
there,
this
there,
customer to stay in their home.
there are a couple that I'll share with you because I think they're unique in some ways. One was an 83-year-old woman who wanted to stay in her home. Uh, she was really having a difficulty in terms of keeping it up and so on. We were able to get a loan that allowed her an income that enhanced that situation for her. Now, I had spent a lot of time with her and her family, her kids, and so on, talking about options. What are the things we could do, and so on, because I didn't think that the payments were going to be enough to really enhance her living to the extent that I would have liked. She wanted to do that. The kids were aboard. They were going to augment mom's income as well. And after a lot of conversation, and we must have had 3 or 4 different dialogues, they decided that's what they wanted to do. Another one that I think was really critical was a friend of mine who was coming up to 62 years of age. She had lost her job in the last kind of recession and so on. um, Hard to get other employment. Her payments were becoming a real burden to her, so on. Um, we went to the lender. They were prepared to foreclose on her actually because she couldn't make her payments. We were able to do a reverse mortgage, get her out of that. Uh, she did not have much of the equity left in order to have monthly payments, but ridding herself of the mortgage payment itself and along with her Social Security income and so on, she was
Mm.
able to retain her home. She's happy there. I've checked in with her on occasion, and it's still working for her. So those are a couple of reasons that they worked, and they worked the way they were supposed to.
And it allowed those people to stay in their home. And 62 is the minimum age.
That's correct. Yeah.
Mm.
So if she had been older, there might have been a way to perhaps even have some income coming in with the equity that was still there. But at 62, it was really hard. So
You've told me, John, that the majority of people that you talk to, you advise them for whatever their scenario is, that maybe the reverse mortgage is not the best thing for them. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe what some of the red flags are and maybe some reasons why you wouldn't or should consider a reverse mortgage and maybe look at some other financial options?
yeah, the biggest thing then, and the question that I have to ask when I'm talking to somebody about a reverse mortgage is, what's their health situation? The reverse mortgage, as every mortgage, it has its own idiosyncrasies to it. So, and you have to understand those. Health is a big issue because the older that you are, if you're going to be vacating this property in a short period of time, perhaps having to go into a home of some sort or to move closer to your family or whatever it's going to be, then this is not a loan for you because uh,
It's an
the
expensive
upfront
product, isn't it?
that's upfront costs are front loaded. They're expensive and so on. You've invested those, and if you're going to be in this property for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, you're not going to get that money back. That's money that's gone. Um, and so health is a major issue. Um, I suspect that uh, while this loan could be used to retire the mortgage payment, you have to look at that as well because even if that's going to affect your cash flow, the problem with that is that it may not produce a whole lot of income to you if you try to do this loan with a major mortgage already outstanding. And you might be better off to sell the home and take your equity and then do something else with that. So on. Those are issues that we have to really look at when we're trying to do this kind of a loan.
Because if you have to move out and you've already you already have a reverse mortgage on your home, you have to pay back that reverse mortgage either by selling the house or refinancing.
Correct.
So you spend all this money up front. What is it, $12,000-$15,000?
Probably pretty
Roughly.
much, and depending upon the amount of the mortgage and so on. Yeah, you're going to have anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, $16,000 of upfront costs, probably. And that's gone. I mean, if you use this loan for only a couple of years and now you're going to have to move out of the property, your heirs, or your family decides that they're going to go ahead and sell the property, et cetera, to pay off the mortgage or even refinance it, et cetera. Those upfront fees have already been paid and they're gone.
And it also gives the homeowner less flexibility if they wanted to keep the house and leave it to their children, or maybe they're moving out because they have to move to senior living and maybe renting the house. They couldn't do that with the reverse mortgage existing on the property. So those are some drawbacks that I see.
If you move from the property, you have a year to, I mean, if you had to go into a nursing home temporarily or something like that, you have a year. After that, you must be in possession of the property. Now, one of the concerns for most people is that, hey, am I giving up my property to the lender? Well, no, you're not giving up the property to the lender. You own it, but you have an obligation to pay this mortgage back if indeed you vacate the property for more than a year. The other question that people ask is, is there going to be anything left for my heirs? Well, in most cases, probably so, if you're in this kind of a loan. There are a couple of reasons for that. The lender is only going to loan you on this property a certain portion of your equity. That's all predicated on what your age is, the actuarial tables and so on. It's all calculated. So if I'm 63 versus 83, the amount of money that they're going to allow me to take from my property to use as my equity position is less at the younger age, because I'm going to live longer. The lender is sort of betting that I'm going to expire before my equity expires. So you can understand from their perspective why they would want to retain a fair portion of this equity. But let's say at 63, and I have a property of $400,000, and I own it free and clear. They're only going to give me or use the equity of about 40%, maybe 42, 43% of the equity to calculate what I'm going to get, either in a lump sum or in monthly payments or equity line or whatever I want to do. Now, at 83, that's going to go up probably closer to 60%, probably not quite that much, but certainly closer to that at 83, because they're betting that I'm not going to live as long, so on. So the longer you wait to get this mortgage, the more money that you're going to have accrue to you in whatever form that you choose to take it. But also the shorter period of time you're likely to be in this property, maybe there are other options that you ought to look at.
And it's not free money either, because you're getting this recurring source of income, but they're charging you above market interest rates for that benefit.
Your adjustable rate mortgage is probably going to be a little bit higher, certainly in today's world. I mean, when you're looking at very low rates for conventional financing, but you're probably going to be looking in today's adjustable at 4.5%. So it's not terrible. But of course, that's an adjustable. So I've seen these go out the door at about 6% also, when the market is up, when the interest rates are up. So you're probably going to be within that range. I mentioned that people are concerned that, is there going to be anything left for my heirs? Well, there probably will be, because understand that when you acquire this loan, there's an appraisal done. And my home is worth $400,000 when I get that appraisal, and all the calculations are done at that value. Well, my home is likely over time to appreciate. So while I'm kind of reducing the amount of my equity because I'm getting a monthly payment, let's say, of $1,500 a month. And so that's, as you've said, That's taking away from my equity. That's using my equity, so on. But at the same time, it's appreciating some, and maybe not at $1,500 a month, but at some amount. So it's unlikely, depending upon how long I live in the property, et cetera, that there won't be something left for my heirs. Now, the question is, how much is that? And of course, if they inherit the property, they have typically about a year. They can refinance it and retain it if they wanted to retain it in their family, or they have to sell the property and pay off the mortgage. I've had people who have done that. I've had individuals who, while their parents have a reverse mortgage, have stepped in and said, no, we want to refinance the property now, pay that off, and go a different route. Those were not reverse mortgages that I placed on those properties. I was actually getting people out of those. So